Hello, and welcome to today's session. Our topic today is Leading Remotely, sponsored by OneVision, and I'm Clint Greeson, and I'll be the one presenting. I sincerely hope that you and your family are safe and staying well during these unprecedented times. Before we begin, let me transition over to the slides and start off by introducing OneVision. OneVision is a business transformational consulting firm focused on enabling our clients' visions through Oracle JD Edwards and cloud solutions. OneVision has a long proven track record of success with its proven methodology and has the industry and technical digital expertise to guarantee client success. In today's changed work environment where remote work has become the norm overnight, OneVision can help by providing remote ERP managed services to support your business, project management support for driving results on your most important initiatives, change management support for your transition, and IT advisory support for the increased demand of remote work. Again, my name is Clint Greeson, and I am presenting here today. In just a brief summary on me and my background, I have over 25 years of experience leading large-scale enterprise resource planning and enterprise performance management projects across a variety of industries. I've led over 30 implementations and upgrades, along with assessments and other various IT initiatives within the ERP and EPM ecosystem. I've led global engagements on the cloud with both domestic and international team members, where most of the work is performed remotely. With having a heavy financial and operations background, both from an end user and a consulting perspective, I primarily assist clients as a project manager and a functional ERP consultant on projects, as well as often provide managed services support. My email is listed here, as I can be reached at clint.greeson@onevision-consulting.com. Now let's get on with today's topic. I would like to just set the stage here at first and discuss what has happened to all of us here with the pandemic in just a matter of weeks. Businesses have gone from managing a team in a local office to managing a team remotely. This is a huge transition, and one that not only requires implementation of the logistics and equipment to be successful, but even more importantly, it requires us as leaders to transition to truly leading remotely. But what does that really mean? In today's session, we will cover some of the questions that I have received over the last several weeks as the pandemic occurred. For instance, what differences do managers need to take into consideration when working in a virtual environment compared to the physical office? What does it mean to lead remotely? What does it take from a capability standpoint to be effective in your work? And what may be game-changing actions for your organization to take to make a difference in the work being performed remotely? I'd like to cover these questions in three categories today. Being remote work ready means you need to be ready in one, how you communicate, two, what tools you need to have in place, and three, deciding what's best for your organization to measure productivity and progress. So let's jump in. Dealing with change like we are having to during the pandemic is difficult, even in the best of situations. When employees are already stressed or dealing with the change at an alarming rate, leaders should be even more understanding. The important thing to do is to communicate. Err on the side of over communicating. This crisis has presented an opportunity for leaders to create more team cohesion and innovation in the face of adversity. When there is communication, folks feel that they are better connected on what is happening, and that is very important when everyone is remotely working from one another. First things first, realize that there will be challenges. Change is difficult for everyone, so set the tone before you begin to measure people on a different standard. Begin implementing some of these ideas at your company's pace and adjust as needed to match your culture. Communication might be challenging initially. It's very easy when working on site with a team to walk over to a coworker's office or cubicle to discuss a work item and keep things moving along. Working in a remote environment does not have to be any different. Allocate time for structured communication as well as ad hoc conversations to ensure that your team can continue to make progress on initiatives. A few ideas to do this are: first, have weekly one-on-ones. By establishing a set time each week to meet with each team member with a predefined agenda, you keep an open virtual door, if you will, to ensure there is ongoing communication. This allows you to hear folks out and address issues that are not able to be discussed fully in team meetings. Two, have regular team meetings. And if you don't have scheduled team meetings as of now, that may be the first place to start. Creating a central and clear list of priorities for the team and communicating them with the team on a regular basis is extremely important. And you should make this fun. I have heard many organizations starting off with a fun subject to break the ice. You may even start your day with a quick daily stand-up meeting in the morning and can cover fun topics such as what's your favorite story of your pet and people can tell a story of their dog or cat. And as you can imagine, topics like this allow people to get to know something personal about you, and that helps build bonds and better relationships and just connecting in general. And when we all, are working remotely, we can all use this type of interaction. Three, ongoing communication. While structured meetings and call times are important, unannounced touch points are important and will help to keep employees engaged and productivity maximized. The important item here is to create a list of priorities for the team and make sure they are clear, that people will know by communicating them and keeping them visible. Be honest and empathetic about the priorities and their timing, keeping the priorities as clear and simple as possible. And while you are having your team meetings, share stories. Write the stories down that you hear throughout the week and share them with your team. And this just promotes the connections, which is often difficult to experience when we are all working remotely. Communicate more than you need to. Have trust. Many, may feel like they have lost some of the control over either service delivery or others, but many companies have worked from home for many years, and there must be a level of trust here already. So you have to have that trust. You need to have communication and provide guidance while being empathetic to everyone's situation, as it's all very challenging. This is not a time for micromanaging. Right now, allow your employees to take care of their needs, and that will ultimately help your customers and your organization as you interact with them. So what capabilities are needed to work effectively? As an employee or manager, the team has to be able to perform the work. So making sure they have access to the right tools are imperative. There are some things that are obvious. Does each team have a laptop or computer to work from home? Internet connection, webcam, etc. Right? However, there are other productivity tools that can help to keep a team engaged and productive while working remotely. Most companies were not necessarily ready for everyone to work at home. Unless they had been trying it out a little bit in the past, many companies were probably taken by surprise for their entire workforce working remotely. Many companies use desktops, so most companies did not have all the technology in place for all their workers to, be productive. And with those remote workstations to access the network, security obviously supported by the IT department is a must. Secure network access to key applications and data, require firewalls, VPNs, virtual private networks, to ensure that, the data and that connection is protected. But as I know, some managed services partners for large organizations that might have used delivery centers outside of the US may not have had all of the VPNs needed already set up for folks to work from home. Many companies already had them only set up for another work facility. And when all the remote workers are at home, that limits who can work with a secured connection. Cloud and SaaS applications may also provide you with the secure connections that you're looking for and allow your remote workers to be able to do what they need to do. These include, those types of apps hosted by third parties such as email, document management, and other lines of business apps. And then you have productivity tools such as instant messaging and communication tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and others that are indispensable in today's remote work setup. These tools offer the best possible virtual experience to share information and communicate in real time via call, video, and chat. I heard someone the other day say that they had been on a video conference so long that day that they had Zoomitis. I got a kick out of that, as we may even create some new business slang that catches on coming out of this pandemic. So, and there are many task management platforms and, that help people stay focused on work that needs to get done. There are dozens of good task management apps out there, but it's important to be sure to choose one that integrates with other systems and fits your organization's workflows and culture. And obviously, any tool that is considered a critical application is also extremely important to make sure people that need access to it do have access to it. Those critical applications may be systems such as your ERP or CRM and accounting, other business application systems that are so especially important to your business. The lack of access or issues with these systems can be detrimental to the business very quickly. So because of this, ensure these apps are absolutely reliable and redundant. Be sure users can access and leverage them from any location through the secured connection. Measuring productivity. So for starters, leaders may need to shift from a more traditional way of thinking to managing accountability. Instead of monitoring people at their desks and activities, managers may look to measuring and goal attainment through other productivity standards. Measuring productivity when you're remote, is often difficult if you don't have your system set up to do that. You can't just pop up your head out of your office or cube and look over at someone and see what they're doing now. You may have to change the mindset from working based on activities to outcomes. And some departments like finance and some administrative functions may be just taking their normal day-to-day activities, performing those same processes at home. But operational departments may have had significant changes to the workforce, and processes have now changed. So it's certainly not business as usual for the entire company. New metrics may need to be established, but once the process is established, then putting measurements in place to understand progress is important. It's best for businesses, and environments to establish KPIs, key performance indicators, when there are industry standards already in place that can be measured. But depending on your organization and the timing and impact that this pandemic has had on you, it may be the right time in your company to maximize the use of system KPIs and metrics that help your team engage and at an individual and organizational performance level. Line of business applications such as ERP and CRM platforms can tell leaders a lot about their team, if they're configured to do it. Productivity standards and keeping score are all very important areas to keep your team successful during this transition. Look closely at your systems and metrics and provide your team with guidance so they can meet expectations. Try not to completely change your team's workflow, but rather incorporate key changes that can be blended into their daily routines. A few areas that you may want to focus first to start with are: 1, setting expectations and aligning them with company goals. Just as you would any other time, it's important to have well-defined goals and align them to the productivity standards. Team members need to understand how their remote work goals align with the company's vision and what's expected of them each day to execute it. Second, you should establish some standards to measure responses and outcomes, like having SLAs, service level agreements with one another. While each team member, has their own schedule and may be a bit more flexed while working at home, there needs to be a clear standard established. In some environments, this may be okay, but employees need to know what's expected in terms of a daily work schedule. There are many organizations out there struggling because the basic ground rules have not yet been established with the teams, because folks are just not used to working in this type of environment. Most companies are not structured in how colleagues facilitate their meetings. A lot of managers have tried to continue with their day-to-day like nothing has happened. For more, it's more of the same, ignoring that the crisis, is happening all around it, everyone, and impacting the lives of the team members. A lot of the people will stay, online, throughout the day until when they're finished, typically with their commute. So a lot of people are sacrificing more of their lives, stay, on the phone and work with their coworkers because they just feel the pressure already. So some of the social aspects are things that you have to think about. And, as managers, think about, how you can take some of the pressure off the team at times. Even with distractions, some of which we have viewed as unprofessional in the past, but now are acceptable occurrences. You may hear a garbage truck, a dog, or a baby in the background. But since this is such a macro impact to so many of us, it has become acceptable. One of the positive impacts of this crisis is that it's humanizing the employee working relationship. If you've seen, someone's dog in a conversation, for example, it's just another way of connecting with someone. And one aspect coming out of all this, is that mental health of workers may be, even more important element to address going forward. As much as you can set up your team to be successful, how you set up a structured routine, how to allow the team member to have a structured routine with their family, it all helps in showing empathy and knowing that, it's challenging and we all have an understanding of what everyone's going through. A lot of folks are sharing workspaces with their family coming in and out while, on calls at times. And it's tough to share space with others and family, with that happening. So, but having an understanding of that will help, everyone in the long run. And third, identify and incorporate the right metrics. People want to know if they're winning or losing. Develop a visual scorecard, providing metrics from the systems that your company uses. ERP and CRM systems, for instance, can provide strong indications of a person's work behaviors. Activities such as work orders, inventory, purchasing, sales orders, and other major operating metrics that can be used to measure an individual's performance are great. But with little local office insight into what employees are doing, these metrics are extremely important for both the employee and the manager. Productivity is linked to the context of the type of work that you're doing. If you have the data to measure, typically time spent and volume of activities, you generally can determine the productivity. And in more routine work activities where there are a lot of standards for the workplace already, this actually turns out well for measuring progress. But without being a big brother watching over folks, it's better to switch the question around. Set the outcomes for your team and then have the conversations with them asking what good looks like, and ask them how they are doing in achieving that. From there you can start to create the productivity items and chart out a way with them to be successful, and then everyone can feel good about taking that on and tracking it. One way of doing this is an approach that I've found that works well for me in the past when helping companies align on their overall organizational metrics. Is first pull together the team members that you need to represent their particular areas that can drive the change. So for an overall business, facilitate a discussion with the leaders within the organization. So pull together representation from sales, operations, HR, and finance. Gain their alignment on what's important to each group, and then identify leading measurements that can be tracked for progress. And then validate that your ERP and CRM systems are capturing that data, that relevant data, to provide visibility to the data that the team needs and can track. And once you do that, soon you're going to see results. So define what your priorities are. And many companies are not looking at productivity targets that the companies had prior to COVID-19. So have the conversations with your team members and then pivot to your relevant measurements. So hopefully in today's session, you were able to identify some items that organizations and managers within those organizations can do differently, and what to take into consideration when working in a virtual environment compared to the physical office. And hopefully these items resonated with you on what it means to you to lead remotely at your organization. This pandemic has created a new norm for us all, and we're all uncertain of it at this point, but it may be a forced march towards digitalization. It may just be the catalyst to drive digital transformation within your business. And if so, we need to act now, but yet do it with empathy. Amongst the game changers of establishing boundaries and ways to measure progress within your organization, over communicating with team members may be the one item that truly makes it all work and establishes the connections and keeps the relationship strong, as we all work together to get through this. After reviewing, the ideas that were presented here today, for managing remote work, I encourage you to create a remote work strategy that achieves your business and CX objectives and builds your plan to implement. The business world is pivoting to this remote work ready new norm, as I don't believe it's just a phase. As an initial next step, you may want to look at beginning to schedule those team meetings and having one-on-ones with your employees, and not only with them, also with your customers, and understanding if your customers' expectations or needs have changed and what the new norm may look like for them and ultimately your organization. Look at ways to establish the metrics for measuring success for both your employees and customers. And so, use the lessons learned from this crisis to build upon your go-forward strategy and to know what productivity you need when we all get through this. And remember, if you trust your employees now, you build your employee value proposition now and for years to come. So I'd like to thank you for your time and participating in today's session. For more topics, please visit our OneVision website on thought leadership. We have posted additional interesting topics out there that you may find interesting, and we hope that you gain some insight and benefit. If you have questions or have some ideas that you would like to share, please reach out to me. My contact information is noted here, clint.greeson@onevision-consulting.com. I look forward to hearing from you and hearing your thoughts on and what may or may not be working for you. And with that, I hope you've enjoyed today's session on leading remotely and what that might mean for you and your organization. I hope you stay safe and healthy and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.